crafters, welcome back and thanks for joining me. This is Jana with Purple Girl Crafts. Today we are going to be making this cute little card. Now this card, if you pull on that lever, you're going to see that that little guy pops up from the front of the card. He's hidden behind that little panel that's on the front. So we're just going to dive right into this and just go ahead and get started, and I'll explain it on the way. So I grab my scoreboard, and first we're going to do our pieces. So the first piece is going to be cut at 7 by 8 on that 8-inch side. We are going to score this at 4 inches. Then we will need 2 pieces, and these are going to be cut at 6 3/4 by 3 3/4. And you'll notice on this paper that they are decorated the same on both sides, and I got this paper on Amazon. Next, we will need 1 piece, and this piece is going to be cut at 2 1/2 by 5. On that 5-inch side, we are going to score this at 1/2 and 4 1/2. Next, we will need 1 piece, and this is going to be cut at 3 3/4 and 2 1/4. Please cut by that, even though it didn't show that because it was a little off. Then we need 1 piece, or 4 pieces at 1/2 by 4, and these will be doubled up. Great, so that's all the pieces that we need. So we're going to move this out of the way. And we're going to start with the base of the card. So we're just going to take that base piece and we're just going to fold that in half, making sure that is lined up, and then just crease out that fold. Next, we're going to take the 2 pieces that go on the front, on the inside, and we're just going to glue that first one on the front. And I'm just looking to see which of the paper direction looks better. So I'm just going to grab my glue, and we're just going to glue the top piece on because we're going to make a slit in this, so we want to make sure this is together before we do the cutting. It's easier if you open your card, if you do have it folded, just to make sure it's flat and even on there. All right, so that is going to be for the front of the card. And now we're going to do some markings on here. So I'm going to turn this over just to make it easier, so I don't want to write on the front of the card. So I'm going to line this up so it's just in the center. And I know that this is 4 inches, so that 2-inch mark is going to be the center of the panel. We're going to put a mark at 4 1/4. And then we are also going to put a mark at 3 inches. And that's just going to be a little bit longer of a line because that's where we're going to start that slit. Then you need something. You can use an oval die cut if you have it, or just you can do this by hand, but I'm just going to use this. I found this. This is a Karen Bernston die. It's from one of the sets. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm just using this as a guide. Again, an oval shaped die cut if you have one would work too. Or you can just do it freehand, but you just need to have it a slit that just kind of goes to the right at an angle. So I'm just going to use that just to make sure it's even. And that again was just for a guide. And then I'm just going to just go ahead and just extend that down just a little bit, probably to about 1 inch from the end. And then we're going to use our knife and we're just going to cut a slit into the paper. You don't need any thickness except for just the 1 slit. So you don't need to make it like a 1/16 of an inch wide or anything. Now, if you had a die cut that cut that, you could also use that too, but I don't have a die cut that used it. So I'm going to start about a 1/2 inch from the top. And I'm just going to follow that pencil mark. And I'm just going all the way down to the end of that pencil mark. And then that's what you'll have on your card. All right, so we're going to turn that back on the inside, and I'm going to work on the pieces that go inside there. So the 4 pieces that we cut, we're going to glue those together. So you're just going to glue them so that there's some stability in the piece so that when you pull it up and down, it's not too flimsy and it will move smoothly. And you could make this lever a different color if you wanted to. I just used the red I had the scraps from the paper. And then we'll glue that second one. So those are the two pieces that we're going to use for the lever. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put this inside. So it's going to sit on the inside and the lever is going to stick out the front of the card. I'm just showing you so you can see we're going to glue this down, or we're going to put a brad in there. And you just want to make sure this slides freely. So make sure that it doesn't catch or anything. So on one of the pieces, we're going to take this and we're going to mark it. And we're going to go in probably just about 1.5 inches from the end. And on that same end, you're going to do a second mark, and we're going to go about 1/4 inch from the end. So on one of the pieces, you want 2 dots. Then I'm going to grab my poker, and we're going to poke through that. Now you could use a punch if you had one. So I'm just going to use the poker and poke that through on both pieces. And then for the other piece, you can just lay this on top of it. And just at one end, just put that pencil mark. And then that way you know that that's where you want to poke that second one. Right, so those are the two pieces that you'll have. She'll have the 2 dots and then the 1. Let me just move some of this out of the way. Right, for the inside of the card, or for the card, we're going to take and put a hole on that dot that we made. So we're at that 4¼ inch mark, we're just going to pierce that through. Because that's going to be hidden on the front, so you're not going to see it. Because this piece will cover it, so it should be okay. All right, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to grab some brads. Now I like to use the flower ones on this because they are flatter at the top, so they don't add any extra bulk to your card. But you can use any kind of brads that you want on here. All right, for the first piece, what we're going to do, again, is you can just slide this through your card. If you want to put it through the little slit first, you don't have to, you can do it afterwards. So we're going to put our brad through that piece, and then we're going to put the other piece behind it. And again, if you want, you can put it through the slit first, and then just attach that to the card. This is fighting with me. All right, once you have it in the hole, just go ahead and press out the brad. So that would be the mechanism card that will go up and down. And you just want to, again, make sure that it doesn't catch and that it flows smoothly. All right, now for the other one, we're going to put the other one on the top. Now I should have done, you could do this first before you glue the other one, or put the other one down if you want, because this is just a little bit harder of an angle. So I'm going to just put this into the bottom with a flower at the bottom and the brad legs going up on the top. And then just secure this piece down. All right, and that moves freely, just like that. Now for the front piece of the card, you can make this any size you want. You can make it the length of the card if you want it, if you didn't want to put another character on there, or you can make it the size I want. You can basically just do any size of panel on the front that you want, as long as it covers your piece that's going to sit underneath it and it has room to move. So you can set it, in the center, you can put it down lower. You just want to make sure that when you're gluing this down, you're covering up that brad, and you are making sure that it moves freely, that it's not getting caught on the flaps that are going to be glued to the underside. So you want to make sure you have enough clearance on there. So you just kind of have to lay it down and see where you want to put it. I did grab one of the reindeer that we're going to glue on here. I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want it. I've got the piece sticking all the way up, and I'm going to glue the deer. So he's going to sit just like that. So I want his paws to be a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to just draw around him where I don't want that red to show. And you can just cut that away. So I'm going to grab just my tiny scissors. Then I'm just going to cut that piece away just so that it doesn't stick through. And you don't have to, you just need a little bit of this leg, so it doesn't have to be that long, or the arm. So you can cut off a little bit more than what you drew as a space that you're going to remove, because it's not, you're not going to see it. And it doesn't need to be a very big piece to hold that piece on. All right, so again, so this is going to sit on there, but right now I'm going to just push that all the way up. And I know that I want him to sit straight up and down when the lever is all the way down. So I'm going to cut just a little bit more off of there. I'm just kind of just seeing where he's going to sit when the arm is moving up and down, because I want to make sure that he does fit inside that little panel that's going to be on the top. So I'm going to grab just some glue dots just to give it just a little bit of height. I'm just going to put about 5 on here. These are very thin. They're not the normal thickness. They came in some kind of craft kit a long time ago. All right, so I'm just going to lay this down. Again, I want to make sure that the right side or the left side is covering up that brad. And you see on this one, I put it just a little bit lower because I want to make sure there's room for that reindeer to go. And now when he is sitting just right there, so he will stick out. And so we're going to put glue just on that little lever. And I'm just going to sit him right on top. Just make sure you don't get glue outside of that so that it doesn't get stuck. And I can see when he closes it, he does fit in there. And then when he opens up, he's standing straight up. And then we're going to secure that other side. And again, I want to make sure that it's not in the way and that he does move freely. So I'm going to put some more dots or foam dots on the other side. And then you're just going to lay that flat and then just close that on itself. If your reindeer happens, or if your character gets in the way, just kind of take your bone folder and just kind of just work it and just kind of curve it inward so that it doesn't get stuck. And that works pretty good. All right, so that is for the front of the card. Then on the inside of the card, we need to put our inside piece. But before we do that, we need to put a lever on the arm to keep the arm in place. So I'm just making sure which way I want the paper to go. So I just grabbed an extra piece of cardstock. And this is another piece it's 1/2 inch long. So it's a 1/2 inch by 5 inches. We are going to score this. This is just an extra piece at 1.5 and 3. Now the arm is only a 1/2 inch long, but I want it to be bigger because when you pull on the arm, it kind of goes at an angle. And if you make it height, it won't pull up and down. So then I'm just going to cut off the little piece just to make it that little, take the extra off. And then we're going to glue just one side of this closed. And then we're going to slip this onto that arm. That's the arm that's going to move up and down. And then when we put this on, you see how it's moving? So you want that room, you want it to be able to wiggle back and forth so that it's got room to go. So I'm going to line this up. And you want to make sure that the card is fully closed and that that lever is straight. So you want to make sure that the piece is hidden underneath that flap. Once you have that, I'm just going to line this up and line up my lever so that it's straight. And then we're just going to glue the lever. I'm making sure that it doesn't get caught on anything when I'm doing that. We're going to glue this right about there. And I'm just going to give it just enough room on the left side and give it plenty of room to move back and forth on the right side. You want more room on the right side of that little piece that you're gluing down than on the left side. And that will keep the arm in place and give it that flexibility to move back and forth. Okay, that looks pretty good. And the card does measure about 5 inches. So I'm going to take off just a little bit of that arm now that I know that it's secure. And I'm going to go just a little bit under 5 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and I will take my punch and I will punch off the corners and round those off. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. Too much stuff in front of me. Okay. So next what we're going to do is we're going to work on the inside, so make sure that still moves freely. So on the inside piece, we're going to glue this piece down. Now you can just put glue all the way around because you put that little extra piece on there. You don't have to worry about getting glue on it. Just make sure you don't get too much glue. That way it'll keep that piece secure to the top of the card too. So I'm just going to lay this down, glue it, make sure it's all lined up, and then use that bone folder just to crease out that glue. Making sure it's secure all the way around, especially on that top piece and at the bottom because of those brads in there too. I want to make sure it has room. All right, so next on the inside, where I did just a white piece, I decided I needed a piece on the inside, so that's the same as the other two pieces, even though we didn't cut it before. I keep a lot of these just around a scrap paper from when I'm doing projects. So I'm going to glue that down. And this way you can write a message on the inside of the card. And then on the front piece, this piece will get glued down, and it's just going to get glued right to the front. You could put some dimension on here if you wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is because we're going to put Season's Greetings on top of that. So I'm just going to make sure that's in the center. And then I've got, like I said, the Season's Greetings. And then I've got just a couple more reindeer. And we're going to put probably the one looking kind of off to the side is going to be on the front, and then that one. Okay, so we're going to glue these down. Again, if you wanted to add dimensions to these to make these stand out a little bit, you could. But the more dimensions you make, the more so you're going to pay for postage. So I don't like to do that sometimes. Right, so I'm just going to angle him just a little bit off to the side, and then we'll glue down the Season's Greetings. I'm just going to make sure that's in the center, just like that. And then I also drew some bells, and I'm just going to put a couple just around, just on the front. So we'll glue those down. If you wanted to, you could put accent on those just to make them kind of shiny. That would be nice. Just making sure I get those just on the edge. So that looks pretty good. And then on the inside, so I'm just going to close that so I don't bend him. I'm going to put another reindeer at the bottom of the card, just because I have a couple extra ones. And then I'm also going to put some of the bells just on the top corner here. And then one last thing is I want to put an arrow on the front. So I'm just going to make sure that's lined up. And then I'm going to take the arrow and we're going to glue that just to the front. Now, if you don't have an arrow, you can just draw one with a pen. You don't need to use a die cut to cut that out. You could use a sticker if you had just sticker ones. Anything will work. You can also just take a piece of paper and cut a tiny triangle out the long piece of the arrow and use just a little triangle. So that is the card that we made today. I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I will post these reindeer in the October folder. So if you get my newsletter, then this reindeer will be accessible to you to use to make this card. Happy crafting. See you real soon. Bye-bye.